peace. I want to thank you for standing up for peace alongside your Palestinian sisters. I want to thank you and to let you know that in the world that we live in, peace is possible only when women of integrity and faith stand up for the future of their children. Congratulations. It is my hope that you will continue to battle for peace in a constructive way, and I look forward to the day that I will come and join you. Thank you for the children of Israel. Thank you for the children of Palestine. Thank you. Peace. Shalom.
From the north to the south, from the west to the east, hear the prayer of the mothers. Bring them peace, bring them peace. From the north to the south, from the
De situatie in Israël heeft veel onrust gebracht, lokaal en in de wereld. Ook hier in Nederland lijkt er nog meer verdeeldheid te ontstaan in een gepolariseerd landschap. Een reden om op zoek te gaan naar wat ons verbindt. Een groep Amsterdamse vrouwen besloot een vredeswandeling te organiseren, geïnspireerd door de Israëlische organisatie Women Wage Peace. Deze organisatie is opgericht gedurende de Gaza-oorlog van 2014 en is inmiddels uitgegroeid tot 45.000 Israëlische leden. Het is de grootste vredesbeweging in Israël vandaag de dag die nauw samenwerkt met de Palestijnse beweging Women of the Sun om vrede mogelijk te maken. Ik spreek vandaag met hun bestuurslid Ariella Giniger. Hello Ariella, it's such a pleasure to speak with you. How are you doing at this moment?
Doing pretty bad. We were in the middle of the war. There were just a few sirens. A bomb just fell in Tel Aviv. And the situation is just horrible.
Yes. Were there many times that you have to seek for shelter? These last couple of days?
A couple of times a day, yes. Here it's not too bad. Maybe once or twice a day. Yeah, not too bad.
And how do you cope? Like, what do you do to cope with it?
You go into the shelter till you hear the bomb fall, and then you go out. Yesterday I was in the car, so I had to get out of the car and lie on the side of the street. That wasn't scary.
Wow.
It's after what we went through on the 7th of October, we're becoming a little unable to feel anything.
A bit numbed out, yes?
Numbed out is a good term, yeah.
And do you seek for support with each other? Like, do people reach out to each other?
Well, a lot, but we're trying to help. Helping others is a good relief. And I have grandchildren, so when they come, you can't talk about the situation. It's a way to put it aside. And we try to do a lot of work for our friend Vivian, who is missing.
Yes, tell me about her. She's your friend, and she
She's
is
a very good friend.
Mhm.
She lives in Barry, which is on the border. And she's been a peace activist for all her life. She grew up in Winnipeg, and 50 years ago she moved to Israel. She was one of the founders of Kibbutz Gezer, and then she and her husband moved to Kibbutz Be'eri, where they raised their 2 sons. Now she lives really very close to the fence of the kibbutz, and I've been there a million times. 2 weeks ago, I stayed over at her place, and when I sleep there, we go out in the morning for a walk in the fields. And it was strange because for the first time, I felt a little nervous. You walk in the field, you see Gaza across the street from you, and she wanted to do the large round. And I said, well, let's go back. We have a yoga lesson. And I was happy to be back in the kibbutz. But in the kibbutz, we all felt 100% safe. I mean, there are a lot of air raid shelters, sirens there. And many times I call her from Tel Aviv telling her, were you in the shelter? She says, no, I didn't hear anything. I slept. So that's not a scary part. But what happened on the 7th of October was really awful.
Yeah, it was different.
I spoke to her from 6:30 in the morning. We texted a couple of times. We also spoke. I thought I'll speak to keep her company. She lives alone. And at 10:52, she wrote to me, I hear them coming in. If this happens again, I'm going to have a knife with me. Knife. She's this little white-haired lady. That was her humor. And then she writes, don't call. They shouldn't hear. I said, turn off the phone. That was it. We never heard from her after since. And we don't know. We hope she's in Gaza.
And so many people have been taken hostage, right? Did you hear back from any of the others?
230 people missing. What did you say? Any of the?
Well, you say you haven't heard back from Vivian, but has anyone heard from any of the other hostages?
The only way to get any information is through movies, through tapes that were taken. So a friend of mine whose mother was taken, she saw her being carried into truck. Now, that's the only information she has. So all she knows is that she was taken out of her house alive, but she doesn't know in what state she's in now. She's a 95-year-old woman. And there is one young woman who spoke on the Hamas allowed her to speak. She was wounded in her hand and she spoke. So she is the only one that you really know for sure that she's captured by the Hamas. We rely on telephones. A lot of us know, like Vivian's phone was last heard from in Gaza. Not that she spoke on it, but they could detect it in Gaza. Mm-hmm. So we assume she's captured there. Mm-hmm. But nobody knows anything. And it's terrible that they don't allow the Red Cross to go in.
Yeah, it's terrible. Yes, we'll pray for her and hope you will hear from her very soon. We saw that Time magazine created a big article on her, so word gets spread, and we hope with this broadcast to shine a light on those missing as well. Is also because you and Vivian both work for Women Wage Peace, right?
We started the movement. We actually, Vivian and I met in Women Wage Peace about 9 years ago when the movement was started. She had just retired. She actually retired from being the CEO, the co-CEO of an NGO that is in charge in taking care of the welfare of Bedouins, co-living of Bedouins and Jews in the Negev. She was a coach, CEO there till she retired. And when she retired, she decided to devote her time to women wage peace, which we really believed in. We thought we're starting a movement of women, and we do not say what is the solution, what is the exact solution, as opposed to all kinds of peace initiatives that always have a certain solution. We thought we were being creative and not talking about a certain solution. We're talking about an agreed upon solution and negotiating and talking. Now, if it's agreed upon on both sides, then it's fine with us. I remember I spoke once in the West Bank, and somebody said to me, would you agree to something that pushes all the Arabs out? I said, it's not for me. If they agree, and both sides agree, then it's okay. We did not promote any solution. And we thought that way of thinking can apply to any woman in Israel. It's an Israeli movement, by the way. We started as an Israeli movement, appealing to our leaders and telling them to sit down to the table and negotiate. We also tried to pass a law in the Knesset of obliging the cabinet to check out a few options before they reach a decision. However, we did not succeed in that. And in the last 2 years, a relationship started building with women from the West Bank. They call themselves Women of the Sun. They are women committed to empowering Arab women in the West Bank.
So it's actually a similar organization, right? It's quite similar.
Similar organization, but there is a lot of difference. For women to get to in Palestine on the West Bank is very difficult. We never expected them to be so brave and do that. And they went forth and they were able to talk. And just 3 days before the 7th of October, on the 4th, we had a big function with the Women of the Sun. It started in Jerusalem with representatives from about, I think, 22 countries all over the world. And from there, the function went down to the Dead Sea, where the Palestinians can come to much easier, because to Jerusalem, they need a special permit to come in. And to the Dead Sea, they could come in with no problem. And there were hundreds of women all talking about peace. And there was a kind of a big table that people sat around. And it looked beautiful. And, I sat there in Jerusalem in the sun, listening to the woman from Ireland speaking and saying, I never believed that the war in Ireland will be over. So if it happened to us, it can happen to you. And it was really very inspiring. And this business of working for peace is like a dance of 2 steps ahead, 1 step back, or maybe 3 steps back. When we started Women Wage Peace, one of the main issues was diversity, because we didn't want the movement to be another left-wing movement that preaches for peace, which we've had quite a few in Israel. And we thought that the fact that we don't talk about a certain solution can allow women from the right wing to join us.
Yeah, to make it much broader.
Right. Mm-hmm. Religious women and religious women from the settlements. The settlements in Israel is a big question. Some people think that they are the cause of all the trouble. We won't go into it now, but we thought that if women from the West Bank, who sit in Arab lands, and they actually live near the Palestinians much more than I do here in Farshmariau, that's what would make the change. Now, I have made a few very close friends from those women. And just this morning, I spoke to one of them, lives in Tekoa, married to a rabbi, and says to me, it's a big problem because they feel betrayed maybe by God. You know, we are secular people. We did not succeed bringing in mass numbers of right-wing women to the movement. You know, you can have all kinds of ideas why it happened. Mm-hmm. And the fact that we went to joining the Palestinian women probably is part of it, but maybe not. It didn't work beforehand. And the trouble is that this kind of change of paradigm has to start at a very early stage. Personally, and this has nothing to do with women, wage, peace, I believe that if children in Israel would learn Arabic and children in Palestine would learn Hebrew, it would make a big difference.
Yeah.
Nobody asks me. So we have this horrible, horrible atrocity now. Gaza is being bombarded. We try to notify them, ask them to move to the south. I believe a lot of civilians in Gaza are captured by the Hamas, just as my friend is. I don't know why they don't move out of there when they can. They use them as human shields, and then they complain that we kill civilians. It's very, very difficult, but it's also not just a question of liking Arabs. Or I really don't think there is another solution besides an agreement. Yeah. Because over the years, each time there is a round, we hit them, we win, we're strong. And a few years later, there's another round. And even some of the governments talk not about solving the situation, but maintaining the situation.
Yeah.
This is not a way to live. Now, what happened now is really a red alert to everybody. This cannot go on. Now, we've been saying 9 years this cannot go on. If you look at the tapes I sent you, there is a tape of Vivian standing in a whole burnt field near the kibbutz Be'eri. They used to send balloons that would start fires in the fields. And we're standing there in a burnt out field. By the way, nobody could breathe after that because it gets to your lungs. And she's standing there and she's saying, we have to find a solution. And there is no other solution than talking to them. You know, this person who really did so much for mutual living, for peace, she's in the underground tunnels in Gaza. Ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's just a ridiculous situation.
And if ever there is any negotiation, is it then always you think that people are just only sending what they want and not actually listening to the other? What it is?
Well, that's
not really receiving?
Discussion, even between married couples.
Yeah.
Nobody listens.
No, and nobody receives. It's about receiving, isn't it?
Yeah, and you know, you don't have to agree with the other side, but you can acknowledge it. Mm-hmm. And if you start by acknowledging the pain of the other side, it's something that can help. It's going to take a while before something can change, and unfortunately, looks like they're not giving up fighting in a war. Mm-hmm. And my heart bleeds for every Palestinian child.
Yeah.
And I think that first of all, before anything else, we have to get back our hostages. All of them.
All of them.
All the women and children and elderly and the soldiers. Have an exchange, give them back whatever they want, and first of all, bring our people home.
Is anyone attempting to negotiate about that? Are there any attempts for it?
No formal talk about it, but first of all, there are negotiations going on. I don't know if the government is involved. I guess they are. Nothing is formal. I know those things have to go not very loudly, but the families, and not only the families, the the public in Israel is starting to demand very strongly, bring them back here. Have this.
Yeah, bring them home.
And we have all those photographs of people who we believe are in Gaza. It's not all of them are probably there. Maybe some of them are dead, maybe. But people have those photographs on them, holding them. Yeah. And we just have to get them back. It's 3 weeks tomorrow. It's not, I don't know how they last there. It's elderly people. I mean, Vivian is 74. She's in a good shape. She rides her bicycle and so on, but I don't know how long you can survive that way. And there are babies there.
Yeah, and injured maybe.
What's the matter with them? This is not to talk about the mutilation and the harm and the way they killed the people. You know, burning people to death reminds us of scenes that we did not believe would happen in this country.
Yeah.
So it's a very bad, very big breakdown of a lot of beliefs, a lot of concepts.
And yet women's wage speech sticks to the same beliefs, even though it's this horror that we're observing. Like the day after, or right after the 7th of October, I have your statement here. You stated that every mother, Jewish and Arab, gives birth to her children to see them grow and flourish and not to bury them. That's why even today, amid the pain and the feeling that the belief in peace has collapsed, we extend a hand in peace to the mothers of Gaza and the West Bank. So it makes no difference.
Look, we believe that our best partners are mothers. Mm-mm. They are real partners, because everybody says there is a partner, there isn't a partner. There is a problem. There is a problem with the leaders of the Palestinian people. And the Hamas is definitely not the right person, not the right organization to stand and lead this, the Palestinian people. But, when I was growing up in Israel, the belief was that Arabs who kill themselves and, while killing Jews are shaheeds, which means they go up to heaven, they have a lot of virgins, and it's wonderful. And that mothers of shaheeds are very proud to be mothers of shaheeds. And I remember one day in a meeting with Palestinian women, one mother says to me, "How come you don't care if your sons die?" I say, "I don't care. I'm the craziest Jewish mother there is." She says, "So how come you send them to the army?" So she lives with the concept that we don't mind our kids getting killed because there is proof. Here, they send them to the army. We live with the concept that they have no problem because they become shaheeds. Now, only by talking, you can find out those differences. I don't know a mother who doesn't grieve about her son. Mm-mm. There are women who hold it up better, less, but none of them. A good friend of mine who's a religious woman, lives on a settlement, lost 2 sons, and the murderers of one of her sons is in jail, said to me that they would let him go if the hostages come back. Now, this is a woman I went through these stages with, and when this guy was on trial, and then when he appealed, and I know what it meant for her, having this guy trialed and put behind bars. And it's the Jewish thing to save prisoners and captive people. It's a basic Jewish law. I hope our government listens to the people.
Yeah.
And acts upon it.
So you organize. One of the things that Women's Wage Speech does is unite, and another thing is to influence the government. Is there anyone who's trying to actually get elected or get into the government?
No.
Only influence.
I can't say that we're not political because it's a political issue. You can't say that it's not. But we are not in politics. We don't join a party. We don't form a party. By the way, many people have told me, why don't you form a party? We don't believe in that. Women's parties haven't succeeded in the past. And we don't want to join a party because we want people, women from the right and from the left, to join us. So once we join a party, the whole idea is out.
Yeah. So being of influencing is the thing that you focus on most.
Yeah. Yeah.
And is there any influencing now at this moment, or is it just too chaotic and?
Look, we're in the middle of a disaster.
Yeah.
Let's take care of first thing first. The first thing is to bring the prisoners, the captive people home.
Yeah.
That's first thing. And the army is sitting on the borders. And it's very scary because we all have children there. We have sons there. It's just awful. Enough. We don't want to fight anymore. And you know what? Even if you have to fight, I don't see how it solves the problem. Because each time we fight, we win. We're stronger. Yes, the Israeli army, even though it took them such a long time, are stronger. They can take care of the situation. I have no doubt about it.
Yeah.
There is 87% support of the population in the army. But then what?
Yeah.
What are we going to do?
I hear you. You say it is a pattern, repeating, and we have to stop repeating it.
Another round and another round. Yeah. Enough. Something else has to happen. Maybe there are other solutions. I don't know. But this seems to me talking and reaching an agreement. It doesn't have to be a love. But look what happened with Egypt. The only small hope that I have is that the peace treaty with Egypt happened after the 73 war. I used to say that every generation in Israel has a war. Personally, I belong to the 73 war. Unfortunately, I also now belong to this one. It's torn apart. But the 73 war, even though we won it and we got to almost to Cairo and everywhere, was a big wound, was a very big wound. A lot of my friends from high school were killed then. But I think that that was what enabled Sadat to come and seek for peace. So maybe the peace with Egypt is not the best peace in the world. By the way, I was supposed to go to Egypt in February, but we have peace and people are not getting killed there. So maybe this atrocity will enable something else.
Yes, in terms of that, it sometimes has to get worse before it gets better.
It got worse.
Yeah.
Got plenty worse. If it has to get worse before it gets better, it has gotten worse.
Yeah.
It's so much worse than it was a month ago. It's unbelievable.
Yes.
Doesn't need to get more worse.
No,
anymore.
No. In Amsterdam, there's a march which is inspired by you. So 4 years ago, there was a big march, I believe. How many people did you have attending back then?
50,000? I don't remember.
And it's been an inspiration for people who want peace for Israel and Palestine all over Europe. Have you heard of any other countries that are doing such a thing? Like, is it?
Marches, I don't know, but there are great demonstrations in England, in New York, in California, in Paris. But there are also demonstrations for the other side. It's very difficult. I'm not 100%, occurrent over where there is done what. So we have to hope for a change. We have to be able to talk to them. And as much as we suffer, and I'm sure that is what Vivian thinks about. I'm sure she doesn't want this bombing and killing. I can vouch for that.
Yeah.
And sitting in a tunnel in Gaza is much more difficult to think or talk like that than sitting here in the air-conditioned room.
Yeah, exactly. Has it ever happened in the past that they just let the refugees free? That they just let them go?
What do you mean? Which refugees?
People who were held hostage by the Hamas. Have they released people in the past before?
We never had such an amount. We had one soldier captive, Gilad, and we released for him about 1,000 prisoners. Which one of the problems is that part of those people who were released in that settlement, in freeing Gilad, became leaders of the Hamas and are in charge, partly, of what happened on the 7th of October. Makes a lot of people say, how can we release Palestinians?
Mm-mm.
I believe we should release whoever they want in order to get our people back.
Yeah.
Then we'll finish our counting with them. But not at this stage.
And would it be able to, would it be of any help if there's any political pressure from foreign countries for that?
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. We're to talk. There was this Mrs. Rachel Goldberg who talked in the United Nations about her son. It was heartbreaking. And yes, the nations of the world have to come together and be united, because they don't want this to happen. 9/11 is very similar to that.
Mm-mm.
They just killed people with no problem whatsoever. So absolutely, we talked to the Prime Minister of Canada to look at Biden. Biden came out, and President of France has been here, the Prime Minister of England, Germany. It's very, very important, the pressure from all the countries around the world. Very, very important.
Yeah. I think that is the aim of the march here in Amsterdam, to put the pressure on the governments to enforce or to talk about peace. Yes, for sure. This morning I read something that Yael Deckelbaum had put on our Instagram. So you work together with Yael Deckelbaum, right?
She's wonderful. She's a wonderful singer, and she put together those songs, and they're like the anthem of women wage peace.
Yes, we saw it. It was very inspiring. And this morning she wrote, "You have to open your eyes and get out of bed." Or she said, "You have to open your eyes and get out of bed and get up to your routine without an answer." So it's basically it's what women wage peace is about. That sometimes you don't have the answer, but you get up and you do your thing and you try to help and you try to strive for peace as best you can without having the answers. That's what she wrote.
Yes. She's right.
Yeah. So is there any way that the people who are watching this video can support women's wage peace, or perhaps Women of the Sun, in any way other than walking along in the marches and trying to enforce politicians to promote peace?
Of course, we're on all the channels, Facebook, Twitter, and they can support us and talk to your leaders. All the leaders of the world have to unite against violence, against war. We have to make a better world for our children and grandchildren.
For sure,
Yeah.
For sure. Yes. Thank you for your time. We will.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, and we will pray for Vivian as much as we can and hope she will be home with you safe.
Amen.
Amen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Shalom.
Stay safe.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bedankt voor het kijken. Ik hoop dat dit gesprek een bron van inspiratie voor je is geweest. Misschien om in het groot maatschappelijk de common ground weer te vinden, of misschien thuis in kleine kring. Want hoeveel mooier is het als we ons weten te richten op wat we gemeen hebben, in plaats van op de verschillen. Als je deze uitzending waardeert, deel de video dan met zoveel mogelijk mensen. Overweeg ook om te doneren aan Blackbox en aan deze organisaties Women Wage Peace en Women of the Sun. Het helpt hen en het helpt ons om door te gaan met belangrijke missies. Nogmaals dank voor het kijken en graag tot de volgende keer.